you very much. I wanted to share a little story first because I was told, Stephen called me, I think a couple of weeks ago and asked me if he wanted to do a talk, and I said yes, and I was led to believe, at least I feel like I was led to believe, Stephen, that it was going to be an intimate group of just 20 people in a classroom.
I never said that.
I know, but I just felt like you're like, hey, you want to do a talk, with a bunch of small students. Anyways, I saw him last week, and he was like, hey, there's like, a lot of people who signed up. So I got a little nervous about that. So that's my little thing. So thank you for having me, by the way. Totally intimidated by so many people here. But I wanted to structure the way that I'm going to talk today with some of the questions that I get asked the most throughout my entire career. So I'll probably go through that, and then we can open it up to whoever. I'm not very verbose, so we'll see how I do on my own up here. I've been, throughout my years, I've interviewed a lot of people. I've gotten interviewed quite a bit as well. So, I was thinking about it for the last week and bit, and gathered up some of the biggest questions. So the first one, I'm sure, when you go into meetings, you ask whoever you're meeting up with is, how did you get into the business? So that's the first question number one. So this is my origin story. My origin story actually starts in high school. I'll give you a little background. I was horrible in school. I was probably like a C student, didn't really know what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a cop because I watched X-Files and I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, and then I don't know if you noticed, I'm not that tall. And so when someone said, well, what are you going to do when you knock on the door and someone just looks down at you and you're the cop? Like, you're not really intimidating. I'm like, that's true. So I abandoned that. I wanted to be a lawyer because also when you watch a lot of television, lawyers are really cool too. But it meant I had to read a lot of books and do a lot of stuff, and I didn't really like reading. So I was a bit lost. Has to be said, until in grade 11 when I started taking art classes. So I took some photography class and painting classes and drawing classes, and I had this teacher who, still remember him, and he basically was just like, hey, you have a knack for communication design. I'm like, what the hell is communication design? Because, it's like graphic, it's advertising. I'm like, what is advertising? So he actually got me into it. He said, why don't you study about it, and we'll talk more and more. And so throughout, grade 11, grade 12, and we had grade 13 back then, so OIC, I would just study more and more and more about it. And he actually helped me get into the school, the Ontario College Art and Design. It just added the D when I started, so it was OCA in the beginning and then added the D later on. And he very much guided my career. Like, he basically said, hey, study this, hey, I'm going to help you with your portfolio, and go into advertising. So that's how I started, and then I went to OCAD, and then from there, again, a little misguided, but this time not so far off with like law school and everything, but I wanted to build furniture. I wanted to be a furniture designer. So I wanted to be an industrial designer, and again, I had a dean who talked to me and said, you know what, you have a knack for advertising. I really think you should stick with that first, and then if you don't like that, then I'll let you into industrial design. So again, I got geared towards that. So that's how I started in advertising. I started my business. My first job was at a place called Taxi. It was like 20, 30 people at the time. And the reason why I wanted to go to Taxi was because it had design and advertising, and those are the things I love. I love the fact that I actually loved ClearNet. Now it's TELUS now, but ClearNet was this amazing basically cell phone mobile service. But the stores, I mean, it's just like Tell Us Now, but it was called Clarinet, but it was really done really beautifully, and the stores looked as beautiful as the packaging, that looked as beautiful as the advertising, and looked just holistic, and that was something that I was really gravitating to. So, I liked advertising, but I also liked design. So that's how I got into the business. I can keep going on, but you don't really want to hear all that. You can ask me later. So the second question that I get quite a lot of, and I've gotten a lot of these at actually female conferences, but the 3% was, what piece of advice would you give to creatives here today beyond just doing good work? Or specifically, what piece of advice would you give female creatives here today beyond doing good work? So, thought about it a lot as well. I thought back to how I was brought up, and I always remember what my grandmother taught me. In fact, she pretty much drilled it into my head. But and it's so funny actually, because I see this poster in my new office now at Rethink, but she always said, work hard and be good to people. And I actually thought she came up with that. Now I'm like in my office and there's like a room and it says work hard and be good to people. I'm like, wait, that's my grandmother. That's a little weird. I don't know, that's or meta. I don't know where that's coming from. But my grandmother taught me tons, and she's definitely an inspiration and someone I really admire and love. Actually, she's still alive. She's like 94 years old and amazing. She used to drive, just a little anecdote, she used to drive this cream, I called it the cream of corn, but it was a cream of corn colored Cadillac with like a gold emblem, and she used to wear a fur coat and glasses. Fake fur coat, Stephen. Yeah, so she was a kind of a blinging grandmother, pretty cool. But I just always remember my first job at Taxi, and I remember coming home because I would live with her on the weekends, and she would basically say, she goes, "How did you do?" And I go, "Well, I'm really really tired. I've been working really hard, and I don't know. I don't think I can work any harder." And she goes, No, Christina. I remember this so much. She's like, No, you got to work harder. I'm like, I can't work any harder. She goes, No, people think that they work hard, but they really don't work hard. And I'm like, oh my God. And like again, one of these like. Maybe because she had Tiger Mom in her, or I don't know, but I would have said that she was the original Tiger Mom, but it was grandmother, I guess. But she let me go into advertising, and she let me go into a creative realm. So that's not really Tiger Mom. I would have been a doctor if that was happening. But she taught me a lot. The other advice I would give to creatives is, beyond just doing good work. And working hard on that, is surrounding yourself with people that lift you up. I started reflecting again on my career. I've been in the business almost 20 years now. And I would say that, part of my success and how I've done so well is because I had all these people that lift me up. They were my cheerleaders, and they were very much a part of grooming me and making me better and better. So what I would say to everybody here is to identify those cheerleaders, and whether they're female or male. Like I had amazing, growing up, in the industry, there was Nancy Vonk and Janet Keston. In fact, I remember that I did my first talk 15, 16, maybe 17 years ago, and they were the ones who helped me talk, helped me figure out what I needed to say. And Judy, John, and I are actually really good friends, and to this day I still go to her and ask for advice. And then, then I've got a lot of male mentors as well, like Jeffrey Roche and Paul Lavoie and everybody. So female or male, not even in the in the creative realm. I had Heather Fraser, who was a planner, and I looked up to her immensely. So surround yourself with people that lift you up, and they will help you. When you're open-minded to hearing advice, they will definitely come and cheer you on. The other thing that I would say is setting goals. I was a little too crazy about setting goals. I was almost obsessive about it, maybe too obsessive. But I always had a 5-year plan. It was like insane. So it was like every 5-year plan, hey, have I hit it on it? Where am I going to go from here? Now I'll talk to you about that later on, because there's a point where, your goals, like there's a part where you just kind of, you don't know where you want to go and you get lost at times, but that's okay too. Like, it's okay to be lost. But setting goals are great. When I first got out of school, I knew my top 5 agencies that I wanted to work at, and I ranked them. And then I went through the list. If A didn't give me my job, I'd go to B. B didn't give me a job, I'd go to C. And I specifically did it that way, because I wanted to make sure I had the right job. And that's a huge thing. Like, having the right mentor. We're talking about cheerleaders again. Having the right mentor is key, because they will help you and bring you up. I was always also sort of nerdy. I was a sponge for information, so, and maybe if you ask some of my colleagues, I was a little bit of a nerdy keener. So I would go in to account people's rooms and find out what they were doing, what kind of clients they had, what kind of things that they were up to, and I'd ask to be a part of the business. So that's a big thing, is being able to take your own initiative and be assertive and be not aggressive, but be open-minded and ask questions. I think it's always good to ask questions. And then finally, Anthony, you were saying that I might repeat stuff. This is my repetitive one, so I'm sorry. But putting it out there is a huge thing. So this I fell in by accident. So I had the I was lucky enough to be 30 under 30. I was nominated for that, and I got that. And in there's like just a little paragraph of what you did, and they had this one question that said, how do you see yourself in 10 years? So I was like, I got that when I was 25, 26 at the time. And so I wrote in a keener way, I said, and sort of kind of being funny, but sort of serious as well, as I wrote, well, I want to teach. I want to be a creative director, and I want to have 2 kids, a husband, a white picket fence, and a fluffy white dog. And soon after that, by the way, I do have kids. I do have a fluffy white dog. Not everything came to fruition, but I'll talk about that a little later on. But but the 2 things I did, which is in the business of teaching and also being a creative director, happened almost within that year that article came out. And it was because I wrote it down, and soon after it was published, I got a call from the Ontario College of Art and Design, and the dean of design said, hey, I heard you want to be a teacher. Do you want to teach a class or 2? And I'm like, yeah, I do. Yeah, let's do this. And so I was able to teach a few classes when I had time. And then the second that happened was when I got a call from Jeffrey Roche, who said, hey, I heard you want to be a creative director. Do you want to come over? And I'm like, what? This is insane. I personally didn't think I was ready for being a creative director yet. I wanted to be so badly, but I felt like I wanted to do the work. So that was, I was going through that challenge. But Jeffrey actually asked 8 times after that. He asked every several months. He was insane. Until finally he actually, I don't know, he got into my psyche or something. He sat me down and he knew exactly what I wanted somehow. And he did his own research and asked all my friends. I found that out later on. That he did that, and basically we went out for dinner, and he handed a letter to me. He didn't talk to me actually. We just sat down, and he handed me a letter, and he goes, just read it. I'm not going to talk to you, just read it. And on there was like, hey, you're going to be a creative director on training wheels. I'm going to teach you, and that's exactly what I wanted. I wanted someone to mentor me as a creative director. And then he also said, the agency, I've just hired a lot of your students. So you've already taught them, so here they are, and they're going to be under you, and we're going to work together, which was, one of the most amazing things. And he hired me an executive coach to help me become a leader, because as all you know, like you study to be an art director, but you don't study to be a creative director or a leader, and so that was a big thing. Is I felt like I needed to learn how to lead and learn how to lead a department, and also feel like I need to learn conflict management, which is basically what I do 80% of the time now. But so yeah, those are some of the advice. Sorry for being a little verbose on this one, even though I said I didn't talk that much. But listen to your grandmother. Have cheerleaders, set goals, be a sponge, ask questions, and put it out there. So those are the 5 things there. Another question I get asked a lot, and this one I really don't know the answer for, but I'll try my best, is how do you do the work-life balance? I don't know if you've heard this a lot, but I get asked this a lot. And this one's really hard to answer because it's just really hard to have a work-life balance. I would say that one day, some days I'm really good at work, and I'm like, I like pat myself on the back, and I'm like, I fucking rocked it today. And then other days I like fucking suck, and it's horrible. And then at home I do the same thing, I have twin boys, and and sometimes I'm just not succeeding there as well. So I would say, it takes a lot of effort to try to balance and schedule things, and you win one day and then you lose one day, and you got to be okay with that. And that was the thing that we were talking about 2 weeks ago when I did a panel discussion on work-life balance, and that was what some of the other panelists were talking about, is don't be so hard on yourself, because you're not going to be the best at everything every day. And that has been a hard thing for me to understand too. I've always been really hard on myself, and that's a big thing. So yeah, so that I hope that answers the work-life balance. You can probably get into that a little lot later. This one is not even a question. You just go, failures? Like, do you have failures? And I'm like, I have millions of failures. So I just want to keep, put that out there. I have tons. In fact, right now, sitting up here, the whole imposter syndrome, I don't feel like I deserve to be up here. I feel like I fail every day. Like, I just started my job at Rethink, I feel like in November. I can't count right now. So I don't know how many months I've started. But in November, I started there, and it's brand spanking new for me. And it's like coming out of school and starting, it's like your brand new job. And even though I've been in the business for so long, it's different dynamics. There's different people, and they work differently, and it's like, you're meeting all these new people, and you're trying to understand them. So, and they're all really, really talented too. So I'm surrounded now by really, really talented people. Not that I wasn't surrounded before, but I feel like I'm really surrounded by like A-type talented people right now, and I feel like I fail every day on that. So it takes a bit to I think with the failure thing, you got to embrace that too. I'm a big fan of Brene Brown. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of her, The Power of Vulnerability and Accepting Failure. So that's a big thing. I've lost many pitches. Like my last company was at the top of its game in 2014, 2015, and pretty much had 60, 70 people, and crashed to like 2030 when we lost Volkswagen. And then we ended up getting Subaru, but those are big changes that you have to kind of go through. In terms of life, I wouldn't call it failures at life, but because that's all a learning experience. Actually, I wouldn't use the word failure at all, to be honest. Like, well, it's just, that was a question I was asked, but I think they're all like opportunities or challenges. That sounds really positive. I mean, there's days where you just think it's shit, but I do feel like, it's how you look at it. It's all perspective and what you make of everything. So failures, question mark, is something that I get asked a lot. And then this one's also a little toughy one that I get asked and I get put in a spot is salary negotiations, especially for female salary negotiations. You know, I've been coached a lot on salary negotiations. You know, I've been told my male counterpart makes way more than I do. So I've asked for a lot of advice in this, and here's some of the advice that I've gotten. It's like, hey, whatever number you think of, just add on, you know, like 50% more, because you're undervaluing yourself. But I also think that that's subjective, because maybe I'm a greedy person, and 50% is just massive. So that's a little subjective, but I do feel like I do feel like males value themselves more than female, and I think that's a fact. And that's something that we got to look inside and really kind of look deeper and figure out, you know, to be more confident in yourself. And, you know, I've talked about the imposter syndrome and this, that, but I do feel like, you know, you're a brand, and you're confident in the work, and you're confident in what you do, and you should feel like you're able to negotiate. Like, a lot of people just accept the first salary that they get, and it's okay. Like, I've done that, but you know, like know how to negotiate. Like, I've asked one question when I was getting a new job. I'm not going to name which ones. You have to pick like the 6 jobs I've ever taken. But I said, how do you negotiate? And they basically said, well, instead of using I make this, ask for this, it was more like, well, for this level, and my experience, what would you pay a person? And what would you pay my equal counterpart there, that amount? So rather than going, hey, it's here and I'm gonna match here, just don't even put that amount in the equation and ask for that question. So I thought that was a really good, that was really good advice for salary negotiations. And then this is a very, very recent one that I get, is why did you choose Rethink? And, you know, there's a lot of it's a very male-dominant agency, and how are you there to change it? So I was asked that just last week. I don't think I answered it all that well, but I was thrown. I actually didn't know that they were going to ask me this question. But I'll start with the first one. Why did you choose Rethink? I actually wanted to work at Rethink my entire career, except for it was in Vancouver. It started when I actually came out of school, and I love the work that they did. So I'm a big admirer of just work in general, and it, you know, things that I like, I just kind of get obsessive, and I get excited about that too. But I started, you know, when I got out of school, it was Rethink, and I was really excited, and I just kind of kept in touch with the people at Rethink because I thought the work was fantastic, and I'm like, one day I'll work there. So that's a very long-term goal. That would be a 20-year goal in the making, which I just fulfilled. Yeah, so my journey with that was I just kept in touch with Chris Staples and Ian Graves, and I would see them ever so often, and I'd talk about the work, and whenever they won stuff, I would congratulate them. And then when I started Red Urban in 2010, I was really, really excited about that because I was starting an agency from scratch with Volkswagen. Imagine that, Volkswagen being your first client. That's amazing. I love, like, I had a teacher at OCAD, Alan Casimir, who was a creative director on Volkswagen, and I fell in love with Volkswagen ever since he kept talking about Volkswagen. So to be able to actually work on Volkswagen was amazing. But when I opened it, 2 months later, there was an announcement that Rethink opened in Toronto. And I'm like, fuck, what the hell? And I can tell you, I was truly, truly jealous about that. Like, I was like, I really wanted to work there. And yeah, you know, I saw Chris, and I didn't know how I felt, and, you know, we talked about it. It wasn't actually until last year that I told him that story, that I said, we just reacquainted. I said I wanted to have coffee with him. I wasn't actually thinking about moving anywhere. but we chatted, and I said, look, Chris, I go, when you opened in Toronto in 2010, and you didn't ask me, I was really upset. Like, I was really upset that I was actually really jealous that it was open and I wasn't a part of it. And he said, you were on my list. Like, I wanted to ask you, but I wanted to go into the digital world, and I hired only digital people, like true pure play digital people. So, you know, we just didn't align. But then he goes, oh, you really wanted to work there? I'm like, yeah. I said, I've always wanted to work with you since you opened since you opened Rethink in '99. And he goes, well, why don't we just keep talking? And maybe we'll figure out a way for you to work at Rethink in Toronto. And so we just talked, and I did my business and worked hard there. And then finally, it was like, you know, things just aligned in 2018 where it's like, hey, you know what? Let's just do this. Let's just make this happen. We've talked about this for, 19 years, and we should just make this happen. So that's how I actually started working at Rethink, is we actually both tried to make it happen and negotiate it that way. And there's a perception out there, well, maybe it's a fact, that it's very male dominated. And so I got that question last year, like, how are you changing the feeling male, a male dominated agency like Rethink? Well, first of all, I've only been there since November, but it's hard. I work with 3 partners, so I'm one of the managing partners. There's 4 of us. One is Aaron, who is actually my creative partner. He's a writer, creative director that I work with. And then I have a strategist named Sean, and the managing director and head of accounts named Caleb. And so there's 3 boys and me. We recently did a color test. So have you guys heard of a color personality test? And I'm also, besides being female, I'm also the complete opposite colors of all 3 of them. So I'm blue with red and green, but blue dominant, which is analytical, logical, very thoughtful, and whatnot. And they're yellow, so they're impulsive, like they're moving, like they're like fun. They don't like structure, and it's been interesting. But we did that purposely. So we took that test together as a team because we wanted to make sure it worked. That having different dynamics, female, male, were something that we really wanted to be conscious about and we really wanted to work on. So it's been since November, and we're still working on it, and it's going to be a work in progress forever and ever. But it's just so funny that I'm female and the complete opposite. So maybe there's less territorial pissing now that I'm around, but beyond that, it's the conversations have changed. But we were working really hard, so that's a main focus. And the one other thing that I'm hoping that I'm bringing to Rethink is just everyone having a voice. Instead of them coming to me to talk, I'll try my best to go and ask, people who are shy. I kind of gear towards people who are, I don't know, like when they don't have a voice, I like to give them a voice. So I'll walk to the people who are quiet and go, hey, what are you doing? And what can I do to help you? So that's my way of trying to change and mentor and rethink, if you will. But yeah, those and there's one final question I get a lot is, how tall are you? Well, I guess I could also answer that. I think I used to be 5 feet and a half of an inch. I feel like I'm shrinking now, especially because my kids literally jump on top of me, and I've had back surgery. But yeah, that's how tall I am. So I'm also really tiny, and all my partners are 6'4", 6'3", and 6. So amongst being male and being aggressive and peeing everywhere, I am tiny, female, and the opposite color. But working really hard day to day to try to, have my voice and speak up and make sure that, there's a good, healthy environment for everybody of all aspects, not just female, but of diversity, of economic, backgrounds and whatnot. But yeah, so those are the questions that I have. I can, maybe we can.
All right, well, let's just open it up. If you guys have any questions. Okay, over there. You.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You said you had 5 agencies named before starting.
Yeah.
What was your criteria to choose these agencies other than, because you said for Rethink you like their work, but what was
The other ones?
main criteria?
Yeah, sure. Because I'm blue energy, I'm very analytical, so I analyze everything to death. I talked to you about Taxi. I moved to BBDO because it was a network. So Taxi is an independent. I moved to BBDO because I wanted to work on blue chip accounts. I felt like I was like in a creative agency. I was doing great creative work, but they were really small creative things, and I learned a lot, but I wanted a different challenge, and I wanted a hard, the things you watch on TV, like Pepsi and FedEx and everything, and I really wanted to work on that. So I worked so I went to BBDO, and again, picked the creative director that I wanted, but it was also some of the clients that they had, but it was Jack Neary who I really kind of bonded with. And what I did also was I interviewed around the entire all of Toronto really, and I wanted to talk to people, and I also wanted to make sure I had the right fit. But and it ended up being that Jack was the right fit, and the clients were the right fit, and that network seemed to be the right fit at that point. So that was so I stayed there for 3 years. It was a really hard first year. I just did not fit in. It was completely counterculture to Taxi. Taxi was creative first, like creative ruled. When things, like if we didn't get something, if like someone, like if an account person didn't like it, creative people would, the creative directors would go, no, you're gonna have to go sell that. And at BBDO, it was account ruled. In fact, they were on the top level, on 32, and we were on 31. So even different levels, completely, you didn't even see them. And you didn't even know, you didn't even have access to clients. It took me over a year of struggle to figure out how to access the client and wiggle my way through everything. But it was definitely difficult to maneuver. But once you find the right people, and the right people that I said that help lift you up, and they believe in you, then you can start kind of finding your way. And that, so at BBO is when Jeffrey Grosh called me. And so, and I think I went into that with talking about Jeffrey. Actually, I've only been, Rethink is only my 5th, so yes. Sorry, I can't count again. But I talked about Low Roche and why I went there, and it was purely because of Jeffrey. It was actually independent, so I went to independent network, and then independent again, independent minority owned by a big conglomerate. So that was in that part at Low Roche is when I got really excited about working on international work. So I was able to work on Cellular 12 globally. So I worked with New York, and then I worked with in London a lot, and I got to work on the Unilever business with Rexona and Bex, and so I was able to travel around the world, and I love doing that because it's so funny that you think you got the Canadian kind of feel, you think your work only speaks in Canada, but it really is universal. I feel like specifically Toronto's so diverse, and we're so open-minded that if you can come up with something that's pretty simple in Canada, it's very universal. And I actually never wanted to move out of Toronto. I had a lot of job offers in the UK and also New York, but I just, I love Canada. I want to keep the talent here, and I wanted to actually make sure that the global work actually came to Toronto. And so that was Low Roche, and then of course near the end of Low Roche, actually IPG wanted to buy the majority of Roche, In fact, they were also trying to push Jeffrey out, which they ended up doing, which I think is completely wrong because his name is on the door, and when you push the founder out, that's not great. So things weren't going great there. And I literally got that call from the headhunter going, do you want to start an agency from scratch? With Volkswagen being their #1. So I went to Red Urban in 2010 with me being employee #1, and then I had only 3 people and like a big engine because Red Urban was owned by DDB and owned by Omnicom. So, you know, it was like, they wanted to keep it small, and they're like, hey, just work with Tribal, hey, work with this, and work with these people. And I really wanted to make Red Urban my own. I mean, I can give you a lot of anecdotes on that. Like, I thought it was going to be, I really wanted to create a content agency that was, you know, completely different from the normal agency model. But I soon realized that my only client did not want to do any of that. You know, I hired an editorial designer. I just hired people outside of, you know, I want to hire an industrial designer. So, you know, I wanted to build things, and I was trying to bring it in advertising. And I hired all these people, and there was like no place for it. All they wanted was a radio ad. They're like, where's my radio ad? And the guy who writes editorial does not know how to write a radio ad. So I ended up having to like fight and figure out the traditions of that. And the other thing that happened when I landed at Red Urban, and I will never forget this, is I was in Wolfsburg looking at all the new cars, and the head client of Volkswagen, my only client, looked at me and said, you know, we didn't want you guys. I'm like, what? He goes, yeah, we didn't want Red Urban. I don't want any of you guys. We were just told that we wanted, like, that we were told that we needed to work with you, so that's why we're working with you. And he like berated me, you know, like, and you're sitting in this bus in Wolfsburg, like in Volkswagen territory, going, what am I gonna do? I'm just quit my job, I'm in this new job, and I soon, you know what, again, I took it as an opportunity. Okay, you know what, he's saying this because he says I need to earn his trust. So I spent quite like almost 2 years earning his trust. And soon he just kept giving us more and more and more, and I would say, like, actually he's gone. He's actually in China. Like all the other marketing people at Volkswagen, I'm still good friends with them. We ended up having this great rapport and great relationship where it was this open and transparent. And those are the best relationships with your client, and you know, being able to work with them seamlessly, and they know your thought, your thinking. Yeah, they you know, you're doing it for the one single purpose. So that's that, and then I told you about Rethink. So those are the 5 reasons why I started the jobs I did.
More questions? I think there was one back here. Yes.
Have you ever been in a position where you've maybe pushed an idea or concept or something, and you felt like you weren't necessarily taking it seriously? And how did you go about getting your voice or your idea heard when maybe the people at the table weren't necessarily open to listening?
Good question. I had a client once say to me, I have underwear older than you. You know, like I was like really young. Yeah. It kind of put me in my place, and yeah, that did not feel good. But you know, because I can't make this happen. You know what? It takes a little bit of maneuvering. Like I think you have to just study the room. That was something I learned quite early, is learn to know your audience and how to work it, and you know, if they bully, you bully a certain way to kind of get your way. But I would say I would say educating your client is huge. Like walking through your creative thought process is huge, where they can't argue too much about it. So you're like, based on your strategy, I came up with this because you told me this, and I thought this way, and you walk them through the thinking, and that works really well. Like when you know, if you go, hey, buy this or whatnot, they're usually not going to listen to you. But soon after, like the guy who told me he had underwear older than me, he bought quite a few of the work that I. Sorry?
He bought you underwear.
He bought me underwear. Yeah, he did. Yeah, Yeah, I don't think you can say that anymore, can you? I don't think clients can say that, but yeah, this is before Me Too, before Me Too, but yeah, no, that was, just, I always remember that, and yeah, so, yeah, I would say like, it's hard, like I wouldn't give up on it, it's just something that you have to work towards, and make sure your teammates are helping you out too. Make sure the account person is on your side and know the thinking that you're doing, so you don't feel alone, like you're doing it together as a team. Like I would say everything that I've accomplished, like that that has brought me to like top success is not because I did it on my own, is because I had a group of like family and friends and like, family that supported me, and then colleagues and friends who lift me up.
Could you talk a little bit about transitioning from an art director to what you do now as a creative director, and I guess the skills that you need to build in order to kind of step up to the next level?
I can do that. I was very conscious about what a creative director would have to be when I first took the job. But I was like, okay, in order to be a creative director, I'm going to have to be better at speaking. I'm going to have to be better with people skills and conflict management. And I'm going to have to learn how to lead. Like, you do that as an art director and as a creative team as well. But now you've got these people who were. I have creative people in my team at La Roche that were 10 years older than I was. I started maybe a little too young. I started when I was 27 being a creative director, and people were way above. And I had an executive coach that helped me coach through it, and they said I talk to people who are senior to me differently than I talk to people who wanted me to be their mentor. Like I'm not going to mentor someone who could mentor me. And I looked for advice from people who were more senior and wise. And you know what, to this day actually, I look for people who are junior. I look for advice as well. So I kind of put that through everything. But there's this thing that my coach always said is, be a situational leader. And situational leaders are not blanketed leadership where you go, everybody, give me 5 ads and make it fucking amazing. It's more of like, hey, you need help on this? I'm gonna cater that to you. Maybe I serve it differently for you. It's like you already work too hard, so I'm gonna put it down. So that was a big. I always remember that one as advice, is like being a situational leader, not like a blanketed leader. But those are some of the things. Again, I'm going to keep saying it, have your cheerleaders around and help lift you up.
Another one is very yellow.
Oh,
Hi.
As students, I think we hear a lot about women in advertising being relegated to brands that are considered traditionally feminine.
Yep.
Is that something that you've had to navigate your way through?
Yes, I've worked on Kinestin and I've worked on OB, but I would say that, I equally worked on, as Red Urban had Volkswagen, which is a car, and I also had beer. Like I was a beer person like forever. And so I think there's a little bit of, us inside of us being female and all going, hey, I can tackle on, because I've had lots of female creatives going, I don't really want to work on cars because I don't know cars. And then they get relegated to more of a female type brands. And I was very much like, hey, give me the cars. I like cars. I want to study the cars. Oh, give me the beer brand. I want to study beer. Actually, so I did that. I didn't do that consciously, though. It just happened that I don't really like beer, but I still got put in the beer thing. But I also thought it was an interesting challenge. But yeah, like I would say to be open-minded. Yeah.
So, question. So
yeah.
You got the Red Urban job.
Yeah.
And they knew they had Volkswagen.
Yes.
But they still went for you.
Yes, they did.
Did they talk about that at all? Like just the idea that you being a woman?
Well, they knew I worked on Audi, yeah, at La Roche. Audi is part of the Volkswagen group.
So
So they sort of knew a little bit about it, but again, I told you that the client didn't want to work with us at all, and were told that they had to work with me. So I don't know how much of it was told to the client, and how much of it was just.
Was that you, or was that just the situation? Was that when you're saying the client from?
It was a situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a situation.
It wasn't because I didn't want to feed.
No, I never got that. No.
Because I think in the city when you got that promotion, or when
Yeah.
that was announced, everybody
Yeah.
was like, "That's so awesome."
Yeah.
Christina Yu is running a big car
Car
park.
account. Yeah. Yeah.
Anthony?
Yeah, well, a couple of weeks ago at Cannes, there was the blank in the room conversation. I don't want to be the guy to use the word.
Right.
That begins with a T, ends with an S.
Yes. Tits in the room.
Thank you. I'd rather you say it than I do. So the tits in the room conversation.
Yes.
But like, how have you faced that where let's bring you in solely? And how do women? What advice can you give to women who face that? Because there's this possibility that will come up in the career.
Yeah. I've had that happen many times. Yeah, I've had myself put in a room. It's like, hey, can you come to this new business meeting? And I had no role. I just had to sit there. And I sat there because they wanted someone who was young, female, maybe Asian, like of everything. They kind of hit 3 out of like a lot. So I'm like, just being, I got into those meetings. And I was told I was never given a role, but I did start asking for a role. I'm like, if I'm going to be asked to be here, I want to have a role. I want to have a purpose of being here, because I feel very uncomfortable. But I do feel like, hopefully it doesn't happen anymore, and you're truly here. But it's it still happens, definitely. Did I answer that question?
You did. Well, I mean, the conversation last time went around the same thing. It's like, how do you move forward from this? Because it still may exist, especially for young women who are in the industry.
And it happens with diversity too. Like you can be a gay male, or you can be of color. Like, oh, I'm gonna like there's too many white people in the room. And I need someone different. Yeah. You know what? It's a hard one. It's a hard one to accept too. Like I get. Even when I got the job at Rethink, I'm just giving you transparency of how I feel. It's like, did I get it because I was just being female and whatever, or did I get it because I was really talented? So that imposter feeling keeps coming up. Like, am I? And then when you get asked to judge at Cannes, was it because they were filling a quota, or was it because I'm talented in the room? And you feel it. Some places are very like when you do get those things they're asked, and you just feel like they're embracing it. You don't feel it. But then there's times when you feel it, when they're not embracing it, you can feel that consciousness. For sure.
You talked about 80% of your job right now is conflict management.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit more of what that entails, and especially when conflict management involves women?
Right. Well, maybe it's not 80%. I don't know what the percentage is. Me, nah, not good. But creative, really good. Maybe sometimes. But a lot of it is it's people oriented, right? And so when people aren't getting along with each other, and as one of the managing partners, we have to make sure that things are going well. And plus, being a creative director, adding to your question, is about gently telling people whether the work is good or not, and that in itself is conflicting, and uncomfortable. So it's all about how to work on your delivery and how to make it feel encouraging and how to make that happen. But there's a lot of it's all, whether it's financial or people aren't getting along or they're exhausted, or there's some issue, there's a lot of issues. That happens constantly as my day-to-day job. And the best thing is I got my knowledge from experience, and then help from the group.
Okay, just a couple more questions.
Yeah. I think he has.
Oh.
Yeah.
Can I ask two? What I've done is really cheater. Okay, first one. Do you think that being a woman changes your way of being creative? And the second one, what's your favorite campaign of all time?
Oh my God. God. I definitely think being female makes my work different from everyone else. In fact, even when I was just judging marketing the last 2 days, in the room on judging things were polarizing in terms of the way that females put their hands up on certain things and the others. So I definitely do feel like it. I would embrace the stuff that you know and your knowledge and your insight. I think me even becoming a mother has changed who I am. I think it's all your life stages. Everything that you've gone through, whether you're female or male or whatnot, is things that help make you a better creative. I would use your knowledge of life and your experiences as things to help make stuff better. In terms of all-time campaign, good Lord. I don't know. That's such a hard one. I mean, I've always loved, I love the Stella Artois stuff, like the old reassuringly expensive. I can't do the all-time. Maybe I'll name a few, I love really craft type stuff, so I like British advertising, but yeah, so like anything with like Volkswagen, the Polo one where they make themselves small. Do you remember that?
No.
Okay, so there you go. To even the recent Paralympic one, the Channel 4. You can do anything. Superhumans, like we are the superhumans. I love for the craft and the story and the positivity. Yeah. I don't know.
I'm sure you meet lots of females.
Yes.
Do you think they pursue less leadership positions than men, or they do not see opportunities for that? Opportunities do not exist, that's why they don't pursue that.
There's a little bit of both on that. I think there's a lot of again, I think female don't value themselves as much as males. At least that's my perception, and they feel like they can't do that job where men are likely to go, yeah, I can do it. Hell yeah, let's do it. And women are more cautious about making those situations. I know for a fact that I do that. I'm like very cautious about making decisions, where then like even my partner will just go, let's just do it. And I'm like, wow. Sorry, what was it like? So yeah, there's that. What was that question?
Yeah, if there is opportunities for
Yeah,
them to
yeah, yeah,
reach positions,
yeah. Yeah, there's definitely opportunities. This is a big issue, right? Like it ends up being more about so in my role, I've had a few life changes this year. Last year in 2018, I separated. So I'm a single mom now with 2 kids, and flexibility became my #1 priority in the job that I wanted, and so that was something that I negotiated at Rethink that I wanted to do. And I think that that's a huge thing with females is it's the balancing act. No, you know what? I can't even just say females. Like males have the same issue as well. Like it's just that it's a universal issue of flexibility that I think is a huge thing. But going back to the female, the valuing thing, it's like I think what we can all do, and especially me, is like we should help lift up those people who feel like they don't feel like they can do it. I'm like, yeah, you can do it. Let me help you make that happen. Let me see what I can do. And as a creative leader, when even if 2 people are equal, like in terms of their work ethic and their talent, to kind of like encourage us to kind of go, okay, let's shape up the world and encourage a female market more too. So those are the decisions.
I actually have something to add to that.
Yeah.
I'm a marketing student from Hamburg, and last week we learned that when you apply for jobs, there was a research done where females, they only apply for jobs if their personal skill profile matches 100%, whereas males apply for jobs if their personal profile profiles match 45%.
Yes.
So you're
Yes, I've
absolutely
heard of that.
correct when you say the undervalue aspect of it.
Yeah.
That's absolutely correct. There is a research done on that.
For sure. I've heard of those stats as well.
Okay,
Yeah.
one more question. Christina's got to get home to her
Oh my
kids.
God.
So I just wanted to ask,
Sure.
you have a lot of experience and thank you for sharing with us tonight. I'm just curious to learn, is there anything that has been life-changing that you have received advice on from your executive coach that you perhaps feel like it's something you should have started doing earlier in your life?
Well, that's really reflective.
I've been thinking it out, so.
Wow. Well, yeah. Well, I just recently had a big life-changing experience, family-wise, which is a really tough thing to go through. And yeah, I reached out, but the advice part, I would say, going back to the coach, yeah, I think it's the I'm gonna go back to what I told you in terms of the good advice. It's like putting it out there. Like that was a big thing of being able to feel like you had to put out your whatever you were thinking that you wanted to do, and trying to achieve it from that. But yeah, I know that's a really tough question. Hopefully I answered that one. Let me think about it. Come back to me in a week. But I would just say be confident in yourself. Try your best to try to work things out. And I think when I talk about conflict management or solutions, being solutions focused and really kind of reading the room, those are huge things. I feel like I absorbed so much from the people who were around me, and they made me so much better. So if you're open-minded about people around you, they'll make you so much better. Their life wisdoms, their talent. Don't be shy of that. Don't feel like that you're getting help from people that you don't. Maybe that's another one. I never ask for help, and I'm learning that in order to be successful, you need your team and you need your help. Yeah.
All right. Let's thank Christina.
Thank you for coming. That was excellent. That was awesome. So, just from my own point of view, I've known Christina. Well, I've been in the business 25 years. So she was a rising star really fast in this business, and I think I never looked at it from a point of view that she was a woman. It was just that she was doing incredibly good work. And I think a lot of people in the industry were quite jealous. Not because she was a woman doing great work, it was that she was just doing such great work so quickly on so many things at every agency she went to. So so I've admired you for a long time, so it's good. Anyway, so that's it. I think we have a contest. We have someone who won for... We got Allison Lee at AJ. Yay, right in the front. You get the book and a bag. Okay, thanks everyone for coming. Look out for other events. There'll be other fantastic people speaking, and have a good night. Happy Easter, Passover, whatever. Bye-bye.
on and maybe
I know
you're
I'm
gonna
on,
go.
yeah.
No, I'm back here. With the kid.
No, because like I said, then let's have coffee there.
I'd love to do that. Maybe he'll send me next year. We gotta talk to him. Hey, Mom, why aren't you sending me to New York?
We could do coffee in New York.
Anthony's live right now. What do you want to see?
I bleed for this guy. He doesn't send me to New York.
I have underwear that old.